Devontae Lewis is serves a Louisiana Public Service Commission, 3rd District. He joins us right now. Devontae, glad to have you here. So first and foremost, Shawn Wilson was a Democratic nominee. He gets 27%, 26% of the vote. What the hell happened?
Yeah, thank you, Roland, once for having me. I think one of the challenges that we saw is that Shawn only ran about a 5-month campaign. He announced his candidacy for governor around late this spring and then decided to run. And so there are, quite frankly, a lot of Black Louisianians who didn't know who Shawn Wilson was. Because he did not have enough money to get on air, to do a ground game, to talk to voters. And so I think that's a challenge here in Louisiana when we have candidates who want to run statewide and we wait till the very last second to try to engage our people.
Okay, so you said so he waited. So then the question is, you talked about money. Okay. What did your party do to help raise money, to help do things? Did other candidates give to his campaign? What did other folks do? Because you have a Democrat who's sitting in the governor's mansion. Normally, if you have a Democrat who's the governor, you actually have an apparatus that helps folks run.
Well, I mean, I think this has been the problem. We have not had a party and party leaders of the state of Louisiana who saw interest in building an infrastructure outside of themselves.
Why? So what the hell have they been doing?
They've been self-grandizing. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I ran this same party infrastructure, spent countless amount of money against me and my friend Gary Chambers because we were not part of their clique. And the challenge that we've seen here in Louisiana is, let's go back 4 years ago. You talked about the legislature and the supermajority. Our Democratic governor 4 years ago only endorsed one senatorial candidate to flip the Senate, and he was helping a Republican law school classmate keep his Republican seat, who voted against all of our Democratic priorities, but did not get involved in flipping a seat here in Baton Rouge, did not help us try to flip a seat down there in the Florida parishes. And so part of the problem is Democratic leaders here always make deals with the Republicans to protect themselves at the best interest of the people of Louisiana.
All right, so that's party. One of the things that I look at is the number of African Americans that are in the state. Where is the Black specific effort to mobilize and organize those voters? We saw what happened in Georgia. We saw what happened with groups there, Stacey Abrams and others. Is there anything happening there in Louisiana, off election years, things at 365, 7 days a week? What's going on? You got a ton of Black people. If you mobilize and organize them, you could literally run the table.
Absolutely. And we have some amazing organizations who are doing that work. Ashley Shelton at the Power Coalition for Equity and Justice. Norris Henderson at Voice of the Experience, an organization made up of formerly incarcerated people, mobilizing people around criminal justice and getting them involved in the system. We have these organizations, but what we see every step of the way is actually the Black political establishment hurting their movement, going against them. Well, when we talk about in the legislature, when we ask for them to fight for the issues that matter to Black Louisianians, we got Black members who will join the Republican caucus and killing our bills, not even voicing up concerns. And
so have y'all made those names known, and are folks going to run candidates against them?
Yes, and that's what we're trying to do. That's the movement. That's what I did. I took out an 18-year incumbent, a Black elected official who I felt was too close to the Republican Party and too close to the establishment, and we beat him by 20 points in this state just last year. We've seen us do this work smartly in some of the legislative races, but we are building that movement. But what happens is, instead of having Black leaders join us in this movement, they fight against us. Bob talked about it. One of the most progressive members of the Louisiana legislature, they spent over $200,000. Our sitting congressman, our sitting governor, former members of the legislature and current members of the legislature did more work taking out a progressive who stood up for Black issues than they did for the Black candidate for governor. That's the problem.
So I'm on the Louisiana Democrats website. This says our leaders, and so it says here you have Governor John Bel Edwards, you have Katie Bernhardt, who's the party chair, Congressman Troy Carter, Representative Sam Jenkins, then you have Senator Gerald Boudreaux, and so. Of those, obviously, Bell is leaving. So, of those four, Bernhardt, Carter, Jenkins, Boudreaux, who do you want to see stay? Who do you want to see go?
Well, I mean, what I want to see is I want to see a new chair. I want to see Katie gone. I ran against Katie for first vice chair with a ticket with another candidate who was investing in voters and not self-grandizing. So that is one. Congressman Carter is our only black congressman, but hopefully we will get the second district after the Fifth Circuit makes their ruling. Representative Jenkins will no longer be chairing the House Democratic Caucus. He's running for state senate, and Senator Boudreaux has successfully, I think, led the Senate Democrats. Who is replacing Representative Jenkins is Matt Willard, a phenomenal young 33-year-old black legislator from New Orleans who has a solid record of mobilizing and engagement, and I think will bring some life back into the House Democratic Caucus.
So I'm confused. If you talk about leadership of the party, and these are your five leaders, and obviously Bill Edwards is leaving, and then Bernhardt, by all descriptions, has been awful. Okay. Then what is Carter, Jenkins, and Boudreaux doing to lead this party out of the abyss? And should they remain in leadership?
I mean, I think that's a good question. I don't know.
No, I'm asking you. I know it's a good question. I know it's a good question. I asked it, but I'm asking you.
Well, what I'm telling you is that is the question when we have leaders who say one thing in public and do something private.
No, Devontae. I'm asking you. Do you, again, yes, you already laid out Carter's elected. You have Jenkins is running for, not going to be House leaders. He's running for the Senate. I'm asking you, are these three, are they doing enough to change the leadership? And if not, do they need to go?
Oh, wait, I don't think they're doing enough. I'll be very blunt. I mean, we have not seen the type of engagement from our elected officials in terms of building and mobilizing and organizing. And that's been a challenge. I've been an advocate before I became elected, and I went to the Capitol every morning telling them we got to stop trying to make deals with the Republicans and stand up for black issues and for black people and the poor of Louisiana and make that case. And I think, sadly, in Louisiana, the Black Caucus at times have made more out of trying to be the peace negotiators with the insurrectionist Republicans than they have been defending our issues. And so I think there is a message that we need to take. We want to see real leadership, and I don't want the control of the party. I mean, I think that's been the challenge. When we had a sitting progressive young legislator named Ted James running for the party chair, former Congressman Richmond and Congressman Carter did not support him, and they supported Katie Bernhardt. That's a problem, and we need to talk about it.
All right. So again, so that's party. If I go back to again that black plan that I'm talking about, what is it going to take? Are you targeting? What are the key areas in Louisiana that should be targeted? Because again, I'm speaking about black interests, which are not necessarily Democratic interests. Now, it may mean electing Democrats, but those are two separate things. What I'm curious about is what is the black plan for black people? Because I'm not just talking about governor or Democratic leadership. I'm talking about sheriff. You got 63 sheriffs that ran, 56, all of them white, 57 men. You had one guy who was a sheriff in a blue area, had no Democratic opposition. What the hell? You had problems with state troopers there in the Ronald Green case. I can go on and on and on. So it's not like, look, you got Cancer Alley. It's abundance of issues. And so what are black folks going to do to mobilize and organize that state? I mean, you got black folks, right? What's amazing to me is you got black people right now who are having more of an impact on the Mississippi governor's race than what just took place in Louisiana, and you had a black man running for governor in Louisiana.
You're absolutely right. And I mean, I think this is what I have been screaming about for years. And one of the things that we have to do is we got to stop getting in our way. And what I talk about, when you talk about, for instance, East Baton Rouge Parish, where I live and represent, and Sid Gotro running unopposed, we had black men stepping up to challenge him. You know who bullied him out of the race? Black elected officials. They endorsed Sid Gotro and said, we're not going to help you and we're going to stick with him. And so when I talk about the black political apparatus, I'm not just talking simply about we need black leaders. What we have to do is when we elect black individuals, they got to stop saying, hey, just vote, but then making deals with everybody else to protect themselves. We have groups on here doing the work. Like I said, Power Coalition and Vote are mobilizing and organizing every single day. They knocked on over 1 million phone doors, made multiple touches. But what we hear from black constituents and black residents is when they look at the elected leadership, they say, I don't see myself. I don't see anybody fighting for me. And I see my elected officials more interested being friends with those who are trying to ban black history, trying to incarcerate our children, taking our investments away. And so what we have to do as black leaders, get back to recognizing that we need to be building power for our people instead of interested in being people in power. And that's a challenge in Louisiana that has not been confronted in a while, which is why I rocked the system with my election, right? I challenged the black establishment because I said, no one's speaking up for my district in Cancer Alley. No one's talking about these issues. And I go out there and we connect. And I think that's what we got to do. We got to get back to the work of giving black voters a reason to turn out, because what they look at when they see the black establishment, I'll tell you from looking at the legislator, there are times you can't tell a black member from a white Republican because they're voting on the same crappy things to harm our children that they would do because they are making backroom deals.
But okay, so they're making backroom deals. But are y'all calling them out? Are y'all publicizing their names? Are y'all specifically putting it out there on social media saying these black elected officials are doing harm to black people?
Absolutely. When we were in the redistricting fight and we had black members of the Legislative Black Caucus vote for a map that did not increase black representation to adequately represent the state of Louisiana, Power Coalition and Black Voters Matter, we put out flyers and social media target ads saying, look at these members. And one of those members was challenged in his election and is now in a runoff, and I think will probably lose his seat. So we are doing that work, but the challenge is we need people to help us invest in the state of Louisiana. But what we're seeing and what I'm talking about is when we are making those calls nationally, saying we are doing the work down here, we got leadership in Congress, black leaders, telling those same groups, don't invest in my state because it's not going to happen. And so we got to call that out. And I'm asking my other ones to be as blunt as me and saying, we can't keep hiding behind the fact that some of these people say one thing in the press and do something totally different when you're not looking, Roland. And that's the challenge that we're facing here in Louisiana.
Last question for you. Are y'all calling for, are y'all planning on having any public town halls in New Orleans, in Baton Rouge, in Shreveport, in Monroe, in a lot of these places where you have large African-American population to begin the process of building or rebuilding black political infrastructure in Louisiana?
Absolutely. I would tell people stay connected with Louisiana Budget Project, Invest in Louisiana, Power Coalition for Equity and Justice, Vote. We are organizations that have been on the ground doing this work, building these coalitions, having these town halls, and we are more committed now than ever. What we are asking for is the people that have been harming us and stopping our movement to get out of the way, because you can't complain one day that black voters didn't turn out, and then you directly harm these same groups who are doing that on-the-ground mobilization at the same time. And so we're going to keep pushing that work. We've seen some of that success in New Orleans. We're pushing forward in the state. But what I'm saying is we got to have everybody at the table. And it's that old saying, it's that old church song my great-grandmother used to say, if you ain't helping me get out of the way, please don't block me. Because we are trying to run this race. And that's what I'm saying. If you don't want to be part of the process of building black political power, get out of our way so we can keep doing that work.
Look, there are many people who have been fighting like crazy for the second black congressional district. And I dare say folks are not going to be sitting here fighting if we're going to see the kind of turnout that we saw on Saturday, lowest turnout overall of an election in Louisiana in a dozen years. All right, we'll be paying attention and watching.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a bunch.